What if I told you that being ignored by a woman isn't just a frustrating experience, but actually a powerful test of your emotional strength and self-control? It may sound harsh, but it's the truth. How you react in these moments of silence could be the difference between losing her respect or deepening the attraction. Let's face it, many men fail this test miserably. They panic, they chase, they overanalyze every word she says or doesn't say, and in doing so, they make everything worse. They get trapped in a cycle of doubt, insecurity, and desperation. But here's the cold, hard truth. Women don't ignore men because they don't care about them. In fact, it's quite the opposite. When a woman goes silent, she's testing you. She's quietly watching to see how you handle this silence, because how you respond reveals your emotional maturity, and that's what truly matters to her. Unfortunately, most men fail to see this, and instead, they dive into panic mode. They start sending messages every few minutes, begging for an explanation, trying to show they're still interested. And these actions, they do nothing but damage their chances, sometimes beyond repair. Imagine this. You've been connecting with a woman for a few weeks. Everything seems to be going great. And then, out of nowhere, her responses begin to slow down. She's not texting as much. You feel uneasy. Instead of taking a step back and giving her space, you begin to text her repeatedly. Hey, are you okay? Did I do something wrong? You've been distant lately. Now think about how that feels from her perspective. Instead of seeing a man who is calm, collected, and confident, you've just shown her someone who's desperate for validation, unable to handle the smallest bit of uncertainty. This is the mistake so many men make. When a woman pulls away, they chase her like a lost puppy, thinking that more attention or pleading will somehow win her back. But desperation is one of the fastest ways to kill attraction. It's not about showing how much you care. It's about demonstrating that you have a life of your own, that you're secure, and that you value yourself. When you chase her, you're not just chasing her. You're chasing your own sense of worth, and that's not attractive. So what's the solution? The answer is simple, yet powerful. Do nothing. Step back and give her the space she needs. If she's truly interested, she will notice your absence and reach out when she's ready. By not chasing her, you communicate emotional resilience and strength. You show her that your value doesn't hinge on her attention. You're telling her, I don't need to beg for your time. I know my worth, and I'm not going to chase after it. This approach speaks volumes. Women are naturally drawn to men who can remain steady and composed, even in the face of uncertainty. They're attracted to men who don't crumble under pressure, who don't fall apart when things aren't going exactly as planned. By maintaining your dignity and not letting her silence rattle you, you're sending the message that you're in control of your emotions. This, my friend, is what makes you a high-value man. Let's take it a step further. The more mistakes you make during this period of silence, the harder it becomes to rebuild the attraction and respect you've lost. It's not about playing mind games or using manipulation tactics. It's about emotional discipline, self-respect, and understanding the psychology of her actions. When she pulls away, your reaction will either build or destroy what you've worked to create. The mistakes we'll cover in this video aren't just small missteps, they're massive red flags that can sabotage any potential connection you've started to build. If you're ready to learn how to handle these situations like a high-value man, stay with me. Because when you understand what not to do when she goes silent, you'll be able to keep your cool, maintain your dignity, and even turn the situation in your favor. Trust me, this isn't just about playing it cool, it's about mastering emotional resilience and confidence. So, Let's dive into the 5 biggest mistakes men make when she goes silent. The stakes are high, but with the right approach, you can navigate this challenge with grace and come out stronger than ever. Let's get into it. Mistake 1. Chasing her like a lost puppy. One of the most common and most damaging mistakes men make when a woman starts ignoring them is chasing her. The impulse to send multiple messages or calls, to show up uninvited, or to demand answers is strong. It feels like you're doing something, like you're showing her that you care. But in reality, you're doing the exact opposite. Desperation is repelling. When you chase her, you're giving off the impression that you have nothing else in your life, no self-worth, and no emotional stability. You're essentially telling her that you're willing to compromise your dignity just to get her attention. That's a huge turnoff. When a woman is silent, it's a test, a challenge to see if you'll crack. Imagine this scenario. You've been seeing her for a while, and suddenly her texts become less frequent. Instead of sitting with the discomfort and giving her space, you dive into panic mode. You send multiple messages. Hey, I haven't heard from you. Are you okay? Did I do something wrong? What's going on? What message are you sending her? That you're unstable, insecure, and afraid of the silence. The best thing you can do is nothing. Take a step back. Focus on yourself. Pursue your goals. Be busy. Show her that your world doesn't stop just because she's quiet. If she's interested, she will notice the space you've given her, and when she's ready, she'll reach out. When you stop chasing, you demonstrate self-confidence, independence, and emotional maturity, all qualities that are incredibly attractive. Let this sink in. When you act out of fear, you're only reinforcing the idea that you're weak. Women want men who can stand firm, who don't buckle under pressure, and who value themselves above all else. If you're serious about turning things around, stop chasing. It's time to take control of your own life, build your own value, and let her come to you when she's ready. This is the true path to emotional strength and attraction. When she sees you thriving without her, she'll start to realize just how much she's missing. Mistake 2, drowning her in texts and calls. When a woman pulls away or stops responding, it's easy to feel that overwhelming need to flood her phone with texts and calls. The instinct to reach out is powerful. You want answers, you want clarity, and you think that reaching out will somehow force her to respond or explain. But here's the truth. This strategy never works. In fact, it does the opposite. Constant messages and calls only make you look desperate, insecure, and emotionally unstable. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine this. She hasn't replied to your last text, and instead of taking a step back, you fire off another. Hey, did you see my message? 10 minutes later, you're sending another. Just checking in. Are you okay? An hour passes, and you can't stand the silence, so you send one more. Why aren't you answering? Did I do something wrong? What's going on? Now ask yourself, what does this really look like to her? It's not a sign of care, it's a glaring sign of neediness. You're throwing away your self-respect with every text, every call, and you're essentially saying, your validation is more important to me than my own dignity. And here's the kicker. When a woman sees that you're this dependent on her attention, it sends her running for the hills. Women are naturally attracted to men who are steady, composed, and confident, not men who crumble at the first sign of distance. This kind of behavior screams, I can't handle this, and women notice that instantly. Now, let's flip the script. Instead of desperately bombarding her with messages, what if you stopped and thought about the situation? with a calm mind. Perhaps she's genuinely busy. Maybe she needs some space to think. Or maybe, just maybe, she's testing your emotional maturity to see how you'll handle the silence. Whatever the reason, your best move here is to hold back and focus on yourself. Women are far more intrigued by a man who can stay composed, respectful, and patient, someone who doesn't fall apart when things feel uncertain. For example, instead of sending a dozen texts in a row, try sending one simple message. Hey, I hope you're doing well. Let me know when you're free to chat. That's it. One thoughtful message, delivered with confidence. By doing this, you're telling her that you're interested, but you're not desperate. You're showing her that your world doesn't revolve around her response, and by giving her the space to miss you, you're actually increasing the chance of her reaching out on her own terms. Silence, when used wisely, has incredible power. Let her wonder what you're up to, rather than broadcasting that you're glued to your phone, waiting for her to text back. This is how you maintain your value, respect, and confidence in her eyes. Mistake 3. Playing the silent treatment game. Now let's talk about something that might seem tempting, but often backfires, using the silent treatment in return. When a woman ignores you, it's easy to think, if she's not talking to me, then I'll just ignore her too. That'll show her. But let me be real with you. This approach rarely works and can actually damage things further. The silent treatment isn't a sign of strength or maturity. It's a manipulation tactic. And trust me, women can see through it almost instantly. Here's the truth. While it might feel satisfying to withhold your attention or act distant, you're not showing her that you're independent or emotionally strong. You're simply mirroring her behavior out of frustration and hurt. And that's not attractive. It's childish and reactive. It comes from a place of emotional immaturity, not self-respect. So why does this backfire? Well, when women go silent, it's often for one of two reasons. Either they're processing their own emotions or testing your patience. If you respond by shutting down communication completely, you're sending the message that you're not capable of handling challenges in a relationship. It's not about solving the issue at hand. It's about avoiding it and hoping it will go away. This doesn't resolve anything. It just makes the situation worse. Think about it. How many times have you tried ignoring someone, hoping that they'd come crawling back? How many times did that actually work in your favor? If you're being honest, probably not as often as you'd like to admit. That's because the silent treatment creates a communication vacuum. It doesn't build trust or understanding. It creates confusion and breeds resentment. Instead of playing games, try being the bigger person. Instead of shutting down and withdrawing, open yourself up to honest communication. Give her the space she needs, yes, but also be willing to talk through any issues that arise. This approach shows maturity, emotional control, and a willingness to work through problems rather than avoiding them. These are qualities that any woman would admire and respect, far more than someone playing petty games in silence. When you stop trying to manipulate the situation with silence and start approaching the challenge with patience and understanding, you'll see the situation transform in your favor. This isn't about winning or losing. It's about showing her that you have the emotional maturity to handle distance and conflict with grace. And that, my friend, is what will ultimately attract her back into your life. Let's set the record straight. There's a huge difference between giving her space and deliberately ignoring her. Giving her space is a sign of respect, acknowledging that everyone needs time and distance to process their emotions or deal with their own life. Ignoring her, on the other hand, is a calculated game that's designed to provoke a reaction. Sure, it might grab her attention in the short term, but it won't create the lasting respect or genuine attraction you're aiming for. If she's ignoring you, the key isn't to mirror her silence or play these childish games, it's to rise above it. You need to show her that you're calm, composed, and able to handle the situation with maturity. This doesn't mean bombarding her with texts or begging for her attention. It means you continue living your life with confidence, unaffected by her actions. When you refuse to engage in mind games and instead focus on maintaining your self-respect, you set yourself apart as a man who knows his worth. That kind of emotional resilience is far more attractive than any silent treatment strategy could ever be. You're not desperate for her approval or validation. You're simply living your life, and if she notices your strength, she'll be drawn to it. Think about it. When a woman sees you thriving, unshaken by her distance, she'll start realizing the value you bring to the table. And trust me, she'll start to feel the void of not having you in her life. Mistake 4. Overanalyzing and blaming yourself. Now, here's where so many men get trapped. When a woman starts ignoring you, the most dangerous thing you can do is overanalyze every detail and start blaming yourself. You begin to ask, was it something I said? Did I text too much? Am I not good enough for her? Let's get real for a second. This kind of thinking doesn't just hurt you. It eats away at your confidence and makes you appear weak. Men, listen carefully. Not everything is your fault. Sometimes, a woman's silence has absolutely nothing to do with you. She could be dealing with personal issues, testing your reaction, or maybe she's losing interest for reasons that are entirely out of your control. But instead of focusing on what you can actually change, you're wasting time obsessing over things that are beyond your influence. Here's the thing, overanalyzing every text, replaying every conversation, and obsessing over her every word or emoji is not only mentally exhausting, it's also pointless. It puts you in a cycle of self-doubt where you convince yourself that you're the problem. But let me be clear, this self-critical loop is not only draining, it's incredibly damaging to your sense of self-worth. Women are not attracted to a man who constantly second-guesses himself or is unsure about his own value. They're drawn to men who exude confidence, strength, and self-assurance. When you let the fear of her silence consume you, you weaken your own mindset. You begin to doubt your own attractiveness, your worth, and your ability to navigate challenges in a relationship. This is the kind of energy that repels, not attracts. Instead of spiraling into self-blame, take a step back and ask yourself, what can I control in this situation? The answer is simple. You. Focus on what's in your power, your own growth, emotional resilience, and self-assurance. When you refuse to let her silence define your worth, you begin to elevate your own mindset. Women respect men who are comfortable in their own skin, who aren't afraid to stay calm and composed, even when things feel uncertain. They don't want a man who crumbles under pressure, second-guesses every move, or constantly wonders if he's good enough. They want a man who trusts himself and doesn't let external factors shake his confidence. So the next time she pulls away, stop overanalyzing and stop blaming yourself. Focus on strengthening your inner confidence. Let go of the need to constantly seek validation from her and, instead, channel that energy into becoming the best version of yourself. When you do that, you'll not only regain your sense of self-worth, but you'll also become more magnetic to her, and every woman who sees the value in a man who truly knows his own. Here's the hard truth. If you find yourself blaming yourself every time things don't go as planned, you're surrendering your power. You're allowing her actions to determine your value. And let me tell you, This is not just unattractive, it's downright unhealthy. Why should her silence or her behavior hold so much sway over your emotional state? Ask yourself, why am I giving her control over how I feel? Instead of falling into that trap, take a step back and shift your focus. A high-value man doesn't let external circumstances dictate his self-worth. He focuses on what truly matters: his goals, his passions, his growth. He's constantly evolving, constantly improving, and he doesn't waste energy on things he cannot control. Let's be real. A confident man doesn't obsess over every little misstep. He learns from them, adapts, and moves forward stronger than before. If she's ignoring you, don't waste your time tearing yourself apart. Instead, take a moment to reflect calmly. Ask yourself, could I have done something differently? If so, learn from it, but don't let that single moment define who you are as a person. A high-value man takes responsibility for his actions, but he doesn't allow mistakes to consume him. He moves forward because he knows his worth. Let me wake you up here. Women are drawn to a man who respects himself. They respect a man who knows his value and doesn't seek validation from anyone, especially not from her. Stop overanalyzing every word she says. Stop blaming yourself for things that might not even be your fault, and start focusing on becoming the best version of yourself. That's how you regain control of the situation, and that's how you remain attractive, no matter what happens. Mistake 5. Begging for her attention. Let's get brutally honest. Begging for a woman's attention is one of the most humiliating things you can do. If you find yourself in a situation where she's ignoring you, and your first instinct is to beg, plead, or try to convince her to notice you, you're doing nothing but demolishing your self-respect. Here's the truth. Women are hardwired to be drawn to men who exude confidence. Begging for her attention, on the other hand, screams the opposite. It says, I don't believe I'm good enough. It says, I need you to validate me, because I can't do it myself. Why do some men resort to this behavior? Because they've tricked themselves into thinking that her attention is the ultimate form of validation, that somehow, if she acknowledges them, it will mean they're worthy. So they send long emotional texts, apologize for things they haven't even done, or go overboard with grand gestures just to win her back. But here's the catch. Not only is this unappealing, it's emotionally exhausting for her to deal with. Women can sense desperation from a mile away, and that's a major turnoff. Instead of begging, take a different approach. Focus on what you bring to the table. Women respect a man who is comfortable in his own skin, who doesn't need to beg or plead to be appreciated. Instead of seeking her attention, redirect that energy into yourself, your personal growth, your fitness, your ambitions. Women are attracted to men who are focused on their own journey, not men who are focused on winning their attention. The more you chase her, the more you risk losing your value in her eyes. Instead, create the life you want to live, with or without her, and let her realize what she's missing. By choosing to respect yourself and refuse to beg, you instantly raise your value in her eyes. You're not just asking for attention, you're showing her that you're a man who doesn't need validation from anyone. And that is what makes you truly attractive. Here's the hard truth. When you beg for her attention, you're doing something far worse than just pleading for her affection. You're placing her on a pedestal and lowering yourself in the process. Every time you beg, you're telling her, your approval matters more to me than my own self-worth. And here's the dangerous part. When you put someone on a pedestal, they will always look down on you. And that's not the kind of respect you deserve. So, take a moment to reflect. Why are you so desperate for her attention? Why are you letting her actions, or the lack thereof, dictate how you feel about yourself? The truth is, a man who begs has lost sight of his own value. He's forgotten that his worth doesn't depend on her response. And if you don't value yourself, why would she? Why would she respect you if you don't respect your own boundaries and your own worth? Let me give you a wake-up call. Stop chasing after her validation. Instead, shift that energy to yourself. Women respect a man who can stand strong in the face of rejection or indifference. When you beg for attention, it not only pushes her away, but it erodes the respect you should have for yourself. You are better than this, and you deserve to act like it. So, here's what you need to do. Take a step back. Let her see that you're not rattled by her silence. Show her that your life doesn't revolve around her actions. Refocus on your goals, your passions, and the things that light a fire in you. When you stop begging for her attention and start living your best life, you'll shift the entire dynamic. Instead of being the guy who needs her, you'll become the man she wants to be around. A man who knows his worth doesn't beg for attention. He stands tall, respects himself, and lets his confidence speak louder than any words he could say. That's the kind of man she will remember, and it's the kind of man you should strive to become. So let me say it again. If her attention is the only thing that validates you, you've already lost her, and worse, you've lost yourself. That truth may sting, but it's something every man needs to understand. Women are naturally drawn to strength, not desperation. If you're chasing someone who's ignoring you, you're not just wasting your energy, you're proving to her that you don't value your own worth. Here's the key takeaway. Focus on becoming a high-value man. Respect yourself, maintain your composure, and never let someone else's temporary silence shake your foundation. When you stop chasing her, that's when you'll start attracting the right kind of attention. Trust me, that's when everything will start to shift. You'll stop feeling desperate and start feeling in control of your own life and destiny. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever been ignored by someone you really cared about? How did you handle it? Drop your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. I'll personally read every single one and respond. Let's build a community where we can connect, learn from each other, and grow together. Remember, the power is in your hands. It's not about whether she notices you, it's about whether you notice yourself. So take the lessons we've shared today, apply them to your life, and become the man you were always meant to be. Your worth isn't determined by her, it's determined by you.